Hey folks, Jim McCallum here. Welcome to our hometown. We're here at Belville at the Brunswick Riverwalk for the dedication of the Brunswick Riverwalk Veterans Memorial. We'll be interviewing Mayor Mike Allen and others, and you'll get the chance to see part of the wonderful ceremony that's about to occur. So stay with us as we explore our hometown.
Now listen, I'm not a good speaker. Now, I was a drill sergeant for 3 years, but that was screaming at people, telling them what to do, not sitting down and giving a speech. Thank all y'all for being here today, but most of all to the men and women of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. And to our veterans who have worn the uniform of this great nation, happy Veterans Day. There's a day in the spring when we remember, those who served and did come home. But today, Veterans Day, is a day when across America and gathering large and small, we pause to remember those who served and did come home. For nearly a century, the guns of the First World War fell silent on the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month. The American people have observed this day. First, it's Armistice Day, now it's Veterans Day. And I thank all of you who are here today for continuing this great tradition. And so I say to each of you, and every one of your veterans gathered here, and all of those that might be looking on, we are grateful for your service. We're grateful for your sacrifice. Just as you fought for us, we will always fight for you. The Bible tells us if you owe debts, pay debts. If you honor, then honor. If you respect, then respect. The debt our nation owes to those who have worn the uniform is a debt we will never be able to fully repay. For the hour of our nation's birth, our best and our bravest have stepped forward to defend our freedom. The unbroken cord of their service stretches back into the mist of American history, from Bunker Hill to Belville Wood, then San Juan Hill to Saipan, from the Coral Reef to Kandahar. Nearly 50 million men and women have donned the uniform of the United States, and nearly 20 million still walk among us today. And as we speak, a new generation of American veterans is being forged across this wider world. As I close, let me say again how deeply and humbling it is for me to stand before so many heroes. For you see, I get too emotional with my dad was a Marine. He fought in the Pacific in World War II and helped put me in this uniform. So all our veterans looking on know we are with you. We do not carry the burden alone. As a nation, we stand ready to help you shoulder that load with the compassion, support, and prayers of the American people. And as our current president made a quote, American veterans are the country's greatest national treasure. You are the best role model for our youngest citizens and a constant reminder of all that is good, decent, and brave. And to you I say, no truer words were spoken. This is the land of the free because it's still the home of the brave. And you, our veterans, are our brave. You step forward, you count our lives more important than yours, and we thank God. To our veterans, on behalf of myself and a grateful nation, I say thank you for your service and God bless you. Now, Jim's looking at me, it's time for me to get down from here. But again, thank y'all so much. This is really impressive. It has done my heart good. This will be here for you forever. Anybody that does not have a brick here, you can still order it and have one put in. But this will be lit. It'll be a place of honor, day and night. So anytime you want to come here and sit and look over our beautiful river, We'll be proud for you to be here.
Now we do come to the moment we are all here for, and that everybody here has been waiting for. I know for sure I have. As I mentioned earlier, during the planning and helping with getting everything set up today, Mr. Jim was trying to show me the progress as we were going along here, and I didn't want to see it. I wanted to be surprised, and I wanted to see it for the first time with everybody, and I'm sure that I'm not going to be disappointed. But at this time, I'd like to ask Mayor Mike Allen and Mr. Jim Busher to come up, please. I know it may be hard for some people to see back there, but I promise you after we finish up our ceremony here, everyone will have the opportunity to come on up and see it for everything that it is worth here. When you're able to see everything I'm seeing right now, me personally, I'm glad I waited. That is beautiful. At this time, I would like to bring up our first guest speaker of today. I'm familiar and I know this woman and all the wonderful work she does do for Brunswick County and its veterans. And as I said, from personal experience, I can attest to just how deep her commitment to serving those who serve runs. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Anita Hartzell, Brunswick County Senior Veteran Service Officer, to come up.
Hi, it's an honor to be here with each of you today. Thank you to our veterans and their family members for your service and sacrifice to our country. I'm with Brunswick County Veteran Services. We're a county government office. Thanks to the generosity of our county commissioners, they provide our office to assist Brunswick County veterans and their family members in applying for benefits to the VA. We are there to provide information about veterans benefits and to help you apply for the Department of Veterans Affairs benefits and state benefits. The different types of benefits that we assist veterans with are compensation for disabilities that you have as a result of your military service, pension, which is an income and net worth based program for veterans and their survivors when the veterans served during a wartime period. There's medical benefits through the VA medical system, insurance, home loan guarantee, burial benefits. We're there to assist you. We're a 3-person department to assist almost 14,000 veterans, so we are very busy, but that's what we're there for. We have an information table down here at the end. Please give us a call, stop by and get information. Just to make you aware, our office assisted in getting over $65 million in benefits for compensation and pension benefits alone this past year. So we are there to assist you. Thank you for coming out today, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Ms. Hartzell. Our next guest speaker is the manager of both the North Carolina Historic Brunswick Town and Fort Anderson. Mr. Jim McKee is here to tell us about the Liberty ships, which he has spent a long time searching and working with. Mr. McKee?
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here today. On the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, the guns fell silent. That's when Veterans Day begins. On the 11th hour of the 11th day, Veterans Day. Yes, we honor the veterans this day, but this should be something that we do every day. 37 minutes ago, 101 years and 37 minutes ago, the guns fell silent. There's no one left from World War I to tell us how quiet that silence truly was. All those World War I veterans have mustered to the final roll call. And the numbers of the World War II vets are dwindling by the hour. Time is running out to honor these men and women. The ground that we stand on today is important for the legacy of North Carolina's role and contribution to the World War II effort. It is an ideal location for this memorial for those who served. Many think that Veterans Day is just the day to remember those who fought, but it's a day to remember those who served, who contributed to maintaining the security of our way of life. Across the river was the North Carolina Shipbuilding Company. Numerous vessels were constructed there that would be used not only in World War II, but later on in Korea and Vietnam. These were not capital ships who fought the battles. These were cargo ships and transports that carried the men and materiel to the front lines in the areas of operation all over the world. Ground was broken on February 3rd, 1941 for the shipyard, and by May 22nd, the first two keels were laid. In all, 243 ships will be constructed in Wilmington. At its peak, 21,000 people would be employed at the shipyard, with 7,000 of them later leaving to enlist, either in the military or the merchant marine. By 1944, there were more than 100 returned veterans employed at the yard, and because of the enlistment of so many men, over 1,200 women were also employed. In all, 33 former employees of the yard would pay the ultimate sacrifice overseas. When World War II ended, the United States had accumulated the largest merchant fleet in the world, numbering nearly 6,000 ships. It is estimated by the end of World War II, 60% of the world's merchant tonnage was controlled by the United States. What was to be done with all those ships? In 1944, with the end near, the Merchant Marine Commission started looking for alternate sites to house these ships. They chose 8 sites around the country, 3 on the East Coast, 3 on the West Coast, and 2 in the Gulf. One of these places was the Brunswick River, sitting right here behind us. The anchorage was placed here because it was still fresh water. It wasn't all that affected by the tides. It had a readily available workforce. You had 2 major roads, and you had repair facilities across the river just in case. At the time, the Brunswick River was only 600 feet wide. In early 1946, when the Corps of Engineers started working on the river, they would start dredging out a channel 1,200 feet wide, over 3 1/4 miles long. This is what you're seeing behind us. That channel would be a 13-foot channel, 700 feet wide, with 11-foot banks of 250 feet. This ensured that all of the ships that would be anchored here or moored here would be moored in the mud. The channel would end up being 2,350 feet long. In all, about 9.6 million cubic yards of dredge spoil were removed from the Brunswick River. The cost of this anchorage was about $3 million. The anchorage was designed to hold 425 ships. At its peak in 1950, it would hold 426 ships. Now, when I talk about the ships, we're talking about Liberty ships, Victory ships, attack transports, attack cargo ships, tankers, ocean-going tugs, all these vessels that took men and material to the war zones. Some of these ships would later on be removed for the Korean War. Some would be removed for the Vietnam War. Some were converted to minesweepers. Some were used to test experimental engines. Some would end up being used for experimental surveillance technology. In all, 651 ships would be moored here. We've so far located 610 of them. Of those ships, only one remains. The first ship was brought in, the John B. Boyce, on August 12, 1946. The last ship to officially enter was the Edgecombe Victory on December 8, 1958. The last departure, some of you here may remember this, was on February 27, 1970, and the ship was the Dwight W. Morrow. Some of the vessels that served here during World War II, you had the Charles Wilson Peel. She fought the U-199 off Rio de Janeiro on June 27, 1943. The Francis C. Harrington hit a mine off Juneau Beach. The Harry Ward Beecher survived 13 Atlantic crossings, 64 air attacks, 5 Mediterranean runs, 1 Indian-Netherland run, a collision, a hurricane, and circumnavigated Australia. A little busy. You had the Citadel Victory, reactivated for Korea. You had the Harry L. Gluckman. She was converted as a minesweeper for Vietnam. So many of these ships carried veterans home. So many of these ships carried the men to the war zones. So it's important to remember all veterans all the time. God bless everybody who has served. God bless all those who are going to serve. And remember, Veterans Day should be every day. And 101 years ago, in 43 minutes, the guns fell silent. Thank you.
Each week, a different church that belongs to the council has a responsibility of getting the food, packing the food, and distributing the food. I happen to be standing in one of our units over here at Prime Storage, where we do store food that we buy from distributors and from the food bank in Wilmington. The food pantry is available to anyone in Brunswick County every Saturday. They are welcome to come every Saturday. We serve you from 10 until 12 at Camp United Methodist Church on Main Street in Charlotte. And all you need to do is show us some sort of paperwork that shows that you live in Brunswick County. Folks that live down here, it's easier to withstand summer heat and not turn on your air conditioning or fans than it is to withstand the cold in the winter. So if you're paying for heat, then you don't have as much money to pay for food or anything else. And so we see a lot more people coming for help in the winter. A local company like ATMC is what I consider, it's Brunswick County is what it is. Okay, when we have these membership corporations here, it just represents the whole county. And when the county is like friends feeding friends and neighbors helping neighbors. And that's literally what it is. I mean, figuratively and literally. And it just means a lot. And I more than appreciate it when there are funds available through good management from ATMC with regard of how they handle their business and are able to provide funding for us to give back to the community as well.
We are here at the Riverwalk and the Veterans Memorial dedication. I'm with Jim Busher. Jim, you were instrumental in getting this underway. Tell us about it.
Well, like I said in my speech, a resident, a longtime resident, frequent person of the park came to me with an idea of maybe having some kind of a memorial in the park.
A Veterans Memorial.
Well, we didn't know yet.
Okay. Good.
We kicked around a couple ideas, but we thought Veterans Memorial would be best. And after Hurricane Florence, I didn't realize this goes back so far back to that cliff back there.
Right.
I knew that space would be a great location for it, and it just started clicking. The visions came to me, and that's how it began.
So all this has occurred within a year or so?
Yeah, we talked about it after Hurricane Florence, like in January, and then we kicked off the fundraising May 4th at our Founders Day event.
Right.
And I had enough bricks in 2.5 months to do the memorial. So we're 6 months ahead of schedule, and it was wonderful.
Now there was a reference made to the bricks, and we've seen those here. There's also a reference to replica bricks or something.
Yeah, well, the replica tiles, people could purchase a replica tile. It says the same writing that they put on their brick. It's something you could take home with you.
For them to keep?
For them to keep, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Tell us more about the construction.
As far as, I knew I wanted some kind of a boulder. Like I got ideas from Oak Island. They have a big rock down there with the
Okay.
insignias in it.
Okay.
So that kind of clicked. Jason from Mulch and More goes, I was talking to him about it because he's also a veteran. He said, Jim, I have a perfect boulder for you, and I'll donate it. So that's the boulder that we see there. We had Family Stoneworks in Wilmington pick the stone up, bring it to their shop, put the inlays in, deliver it, put it on the site, and then just the vision of making it look nice,
go back
knowing where the bricks were going to go.
Let's go back to the bricks for a moment. Our viewers might be interested to know that they can still get a brick.
Yes,
Okay.
they can. You can go on polarengraving.com/Riverwalk Memorial. Brings you to a website. You can print out a form and bring it down to a town hall or mail it in, or you can do it right online through PayPal. And you can actually see what your brick looks like as you type it in and pick the clip art or whatever. So you can see exactly what it's going to look like. That's the best way to do it.
Jim Busher, one who's so responsible for all this, you must be overwhelmed by the
I am,
response,
as you
the
can
crowd
tell.
that here. Talk about that for just a second.
When it first came to be, I thought it would be a great thing for the park. You know, it'd be a wonderful thing to have at the park, but I realized
I'm with you. Go. Take your time.
how much more important
It is.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as the transition went on, it was wonderful.
And the fact that 400 or 500 people showed up here today is a testimony to that,
Yeah,
and to its future.
exactly.
And for decades and decades to come,
Right.
Brunswick County, folks from all around. I spoke to a veteran today from Colorado who was here today
Wow.
in uniform.
That's awesome.
In uniform. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I met so many people through this process. It's been wonderful. It's heartfelt.
Well, we thank you. Thank you,
Hey.
Jim Busher. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Stay connected with ATMC TV. Like us on Facebook today.
He is Command Sergeant Major Mike Allen, but to most of us, he is Mayor Mike Allen, and occasionally to me, he's Mike.
You got
Mr.
that
Mayor,
right, sir.
thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Jim. Thank y'all for being here today.
What an awesome day we've just enjoyed.
It has, Jim, and I'm really grateful to all the veterans that showed up today. And like I said, it looks like we had over 500 here today.
Easily.
But that says a lot about our veteran population here in Brunswick County, as well as I think even some out of New Hanover County.
Well, I heard from Ms. Hartswell this morning that we have 14,000 veterans in our county.
And
That's a pretty heavy veteran population.
And it is, and to get a day like today that we can thank our veterans and open up a memorial park inside of the Brunswick Riverwalk Park, that our veterans will have a place that they can always come to and their families and reflect back, either previous service members or current service members, and this will always be here for them to remember the sacrifices made by our heroes that served in the military.
I've used this term, and that is to say veterans in our county here have a quiet presence. They may not be loud, but whether you're in Walmart or going to the store or going down the street, it's comforting to me to know that there are so many veterans in our county.
Well, you know, veterans are, and mainly combat veterans also, which my dad was one of, they are quiet people. They don't talk much about the deeds they done or
Right.
the service they done, but they made a great sacrifice to their country and to the nation and the Constitution that we serve under.
And I felt that same sense of modesty here today among our veterans. Yeah.
And I said it was humbling even for me to be here in the presence of all these heroes. It's a humbling feeling, even for veterans themselves, to be here, even with a World War II veteran that we had here today.
Right.
But veterans that lead the service still give service to their nation, whether it's in the political realm or they work for the cities or the states or the federal government. They still giving, and they continue to give their entire lives.
I want our audience, our viewing audience, to think a little bit about this one issue. I heard this morning on TV that suicide among veterans is still a huge issue, whether it's our younger veterans from Afghanistan or Iraq, but also for our Vietnam veterans.
Well, a lot of during the Vietnam era, and let's go back to World War I all the way up to
Sure.
the present day.
Sure.
After Desert Storm and some of the wars there, we started identifying that a lot of soldiers were coming back with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Right, right.
And it hadn't been dealt with the way it should have in years past. But now, currently, when soldiers come back, there's a lot of programs that they go through. There's a lot of programs that they have. Even in my tenure before I retired, we had a lot of soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that had post-traumatic stress syndrome, but we had avenues that we could recognize, identify them, and get them help.
I'm going to read this off my notes, but President Lincoln said to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and orphan. And that's our job, that's our task.
That's it, and we hope that our nation and our leaders in this nation continue to look after the veterans, their concerns and their needs, because they took oath to defend this country,
Right.
and we should defend them.
Mike, I'll jump back to our Veterans Memorial. Talk a little bit about how it came about.
Our parks director, Jim Brewster, came to me and asked me that we didn't have a Veterans Memorial Park on the north end of the county. And I told him, I said, yeah, you're right. And I said, go ahead and look at it, see what you can put together, come back to me. And I said, I'll support you, and the town will support you in any way you want. He was the spearhead. He made it happen. He put all the people together. He put the event together. And I always, in the military, we always said, you know, he said, you always give people, you hand it to them, and you give them a chance to excel. And Jim did.
But you have the Riverwalk here, you have the Veterans Memorial. You're a pretty small town of 2,100. How do you do it all?
Well, it's called be real conservative, tight on the dollar, and you, especially with this memorial and everything, you'll be surprised at the people out there that support veterans and that support their country. And all you got to do is ask once, and they'll give.
Yeah. And all this was done without taxpayer
All this
funds.
is donated, not one tax dollar was spent on it.
Mr. Mayor, we could talk forever. Look right into our camera and let's say thank a veteran.
I'd like to thank all the veterans of this nation. God bless you. We appreciate you and we stand with you. Thank all the veterans.
Thank you, veterans. Thanks. And thanks for being with us, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Jim.
Yep.